The name of this topic is finding the value for a new score that will yield a given mean. Here's the question. Tammy has scored 18, 23, 23, and 17 points in her 4 basketball games so far. How many points does she need to score in her next game so that her average or mean is 21 points per game? So here's what we know. Here are the 4 numbers, or the amount of points that Tammy has scored in her first 4 games. When she's done with her 5th game, which I left the 5th game a blank because that's what we're going to figure out, she wants to be able to say, I averaged 21 points per game. So then the question is, how many points does she need to score here so that she can say I averaged 21 points per game? Well, let's work this as we would in a typical fashion so I can show you how to work it backwards. If you were solving the mean, you would add the 5 numbers, we're missing one. You would get the total. Then you would divide it by 5 and want the answer to be 21. This we know from the problem here. So how can we figure out this number? Many of my students in the past have attempted this problem with guess and check. Don't do that. That takes too long, especially when there's a pretty easy way to solve it without using guess and check. If we're going to add a series of numbers, get a total, divide the total by 5, and we want the answer to be 21. Couldn't we then work this backwards to see what the missing number is? So let's work this backwards. We'll take 21 times 5, and we would get for that 105. Okay, so we know that in order to average 21 points per game in 5 games, this amount of points that she needs will have to equal 105. So she'll need a total of 105 points total to get an average of 21 points per game. That, however, is not the answer. She needs 105 points. She already has 17, 23, 23, and 18. So if we add those 4 numbers, we would see that she has a total currently of 81 points. In order for this to work out so that she can say, I average 21 points per game, we need all these numbers, all 5 of these, to equal 105. She already has 81 points. So if I did 105 minus 81, I would get 24. So just so I can show you that this works, if you add all 5 of these numbers, you get 105. You divide it, that's how many total points she got in the 5 games. Divide it by the 5 for the number of games, and you get 21. So then the answer would be that she needs 21 points in order to make that happen. She needs 21 points in the 5th game. Let's solve another one of these, just because I really want you to see that you do not have to use guess and check to solve these. So the topic is called Finding the Value for a New Score That Will Yield a Given Mean. So if Eric has scored 79, 90, and 75 on his previous 3 tests, what score does he need on his next test so his average or mean score is an 80? So let's say that he wants to say when he's done with his class, I had an average of 80. Here's his 3 tests so far. So far he scored a 79 plus 90. He got 90 points on the second test, and he got 75 on the 3rd test. He is about to take another test. When he's done and gets all of his total points, then he'll divide it by 4, since he's had 4 tests now, and he wants to say my average was 80. So the question is, what does he need to get on this 4th test? Well, let's work this backwards so that we will not have to do guess and check. If you work this backwards and we take 80 times 4, we know that in order to get an average of 80 during 4 tests, he'll need 320 points. He doesn't need to get 320 points on the next test. He already has some points. So the question is, how many points does he already have? So if we add the 79 plus the 90 plus the 75, we see that he already currently has 244 points. So on his next test, if when the test is done he has 320 points, then he'll have an average of 80. So we take the 320, the total points that he'll need, we subtract from that the points that he already has, which is 244. So when we subtract 320 and we take away the 244, when we borrow, we end up with 76. So that means he would need to get a 76 on his fourth test in order to have an average or a mean of 80. And that is how you solve finding the value for a new score that will yield a given mean.